This video will give a short demonstration of Transform's secure data transport layer currently being developed as part of WorkTask 7.5. We will begin by describing each of the components and the lifecycle of a query as it passes through the secure data transport layer. Later we will demonstrate this lifecycle in practice using a sample query. The infrastructure is powered by Apache Camel and is split into 3 modules which are distributed across 3 major nodes. At the front end, the middleware proxy provides a simple interface to the query workbench, whilst hiding the complexity of the distributed infrastructure underneath. It allows the workbench to obtain a list of data sources, retrieve the status of existing queries, retrieve results when they are ready, and of course submit a new query. When a query is created by the query workbench, it is passed to the middleware proxy. Here it is encrypted and signed using the security library provided by WorkTask 3.3, which is integrated into both the front end and back end workflows. This encryption ensures that nobody can tamper with or access the query whilst it is en route to its target data sources. Next, the encrypted query is sent to the middleware node. This node creates a query object for the query in a locally hosted SQL database. This database stores the encrypted query and notes the data sources that the query is intended for. It also maintains a log of the query status. This status can then be returned to the query workbench user if requested. The middleware node also maintains a registry of active data sources with a heartbeat mechanism used to determine active sites. The final component of the infrastructure is at the data source, where the back-end proxy manages the workflow. This proxy pulls queries from the middleware node by periodically sending requests for new queries intended for its specific data source. Once a new query arrives, the proxy unencrypts the query using the integrated security library. The library also returns a status message to the middleware node as the query passes through the workflow. Once ready, the query is passed to the data node connector, which will execute the query against the data source. The data node connector returns the results to the middleware proxy, where they are once again encrypted using the security library. The encrypted results are placed in a secure location specified by the data source. From here they can be retrieved by the workbench user using the front-end proxy. Next we will demonstrate this lifecycle with a sample query. As the secure data transport layer is distributed across 3 nodes and does not have a user interface per se, for the purposes of this demo we will focus on the middleware node only, using the 3 windows on screen. The window on the top of the screen is a terminal view of the SQL database, where the query objects are created in the middleware node. The bottom right hand screen shows a live update of the middleware log files, showing requests for new queries being received from the data sources and any responses sent. The bottom left screen shows the current contents of the secure data location, where the encrypted results of the query will ultimately be placed. To begin, we note that there is a query in the middleware node. This has an associated query ID, a target data source, and 3 flags associated with it. The first of these flags is sent to DS. This signifies whether the query has been sent to the data source yet or not. The executing flag signifies whether the query has been submitted to the data node connector at the data source. Finally, results ready signifies whether the query has been executed and results placed in the secure location. The encrypted contents of the query are stored in another table in the middleware node. For the purposes of the demo, we have set the query by default to have a flag that it was sent to data source. To trigger the sending, we simply update this flag to 0. The query is now ready to be sent to the data source. The back-end proxy polls the middleware node every 60 seconds, requesting new queries that have yet to be sent to the data source. We can now see that the query has been sent to the data source with the associated query ID. A number of updates are sent throughout this workflow to update the middleware node on the status of the query. All flags have now been set, signifying that the results are ready and have been placed in the secure data location. By refreshing this folder, we see that a new file has been created with the query's ID and the data source used to identify it.